I guess I just want to have a mild philosoph. I can't even talk today. Mild philos a mild discussion
Philosophical.
on. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good grief. I just want to have a kind of a light discussion on principles and kind of where they come from.
Okay.
Just the little things
Yeah.
like that, with a couple other little questions in there for you, because
Sure.
and for people that I don't have a lot of subscribers, but for those that don't know you yet, how do you describe what you do?
Well, I used to go by the title of YouTuber, but now YouTube doesn't seem to want much to do with people like me. So
That's
I
fair.
guess I find the title content creator kind of cringe though. So talker on the internet. I don't know what title you would give it, but I make video content in short form twice weekly, and in a long form on a Sunday night stream. We do a call-in show on Wednesday night as well. But yeah, I mean, I'm trying to figure out what's true and what's sane in the world by talking with people on the internet. That's the general idea.
That's a pretty good way to put it. Uh,
Yeah.
I typically just do cringe gaming stuff, and every now and again I interview somebody that went through something pretty extreme or really out of the ordinary. And
Mhm.
I don't know, I just took a shot at asking you some questions, and it worked. So why not?
Yeah. Thanks for hosting me. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
All right. So a lot of what drew me to your channel years and years ago, like pre-evergreen stuff, was that you you don't just cover topics I'm interested in. You cover them in such a way that you get at the core of the issue. And I find
Mm.
that you tie it a lot back to the principle of the matter and what people should really be focusing on instead of getting lost in the weeds and all this and this. And so I've always kind of wanted to ask you, where do you think that people's principles come from? How do they form? Where did they get those?
Well, thanks for the compliment. I appreciate that. But I think that yeah, obviously principles are important. Where does that come from? Anything that's fundamentally true is something that I think we observe in the natural world. That's kind of the basis for our entire social structure, our entire
Hmm.
government structure, is what natural laws about the world can we observe by observing the world in its natural state. What is it that people are
Yeah.
doing in their natural state before government ever exists, before any of the rules or interference that we impose on each other ever exists? Fundamentally, people are trying to survive and prosper. And I think whatever that natural drive that's in people, wherever that comes from, the moral obligation for all of us is to recognize that and to live according to that. So, where do those principles come from? Well, they come from a fundamental recognition that human life has value and purpose, and that it would be wrong for us to interfere with somebody else in pursuit of that purpose. That's like the
Okay.
base level stuff. And I think everything beyond that is sort of built off that fundamental premise.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I kind of came at this sort of how Jordan Peterson a lot. He'll talk about heroes, and a lot of
Mm.
times young men will kind of put their father in that slot. And a lot of, say, like biblical stories come from their need to be a hero and kind of living up to that, uh,
Hmm.
becoming that a little bit. And so I also kind of look at it as that's why a lot of media does have an important slot, is because sometimes people don't have that, and they kind of sometimes wrongly idolize something that they see in media or anything like that, and they kind of draw on the good characteristics that they see from, even say, like Superman or their father having the discipline to chop wood, at 7
Yeah.
a.m. that kind of thing. And so I can kind of see a little bit of that as well. And unfortunately, not enough people observe the realistic side of what happens in their day-to-day life or interactions with other people to really bring out those principles, to really develop those, or really even give them
Well,
much thought.
yeah. Fundamental idea, the unexamined life is not worth living.
Yeah.
You need to understand why it is that you do the things that you do every single day. And if you can't explain
Mm.
them, you shouldn't be doing them, or you should consider an alternative approach. And that doesn't mean like, yeah, we all sit down and we play some video games, or we
Oh yeah.
waste time here or there. We do things that deviate from the strictest interpretation of our purpose. But every single day should include some steps toward fulfilling
Mhm.
or becoming the best version of yourself that you possibly can, fulfilling that purpose for you. And when we think about what is a good man, what is a hero, it's somebody who is actively doing that for himself and in the context of a father for his family. And after that, probably in a broader sense for community or society as a whole. But that's the other aspect of all this, I think, that has to stay in focus. It's the order of who you take care of first, and I think
Yeah.
we have this sense that heroes take care of everybody and they're selfless. Well,
Yep.
you got to, I mean, maybe they are, but you got to put yourself in position to be able to do that. And you referenced Jordan Peterson. I mean, that's kind of a fundamental concept there. Clean your room, make your bed, but
Yeah.
really take care of yourself. It's not a selfish thing. It's a recognition that I can't take care of other people effectively if I haven't taken care of my own house first.
Hmm.
And that's a fundamental concept I think we need to get back to. Instead of assuming responsibility for everybody else out there and trying to control them, control yourself first. Put yourself on the right path first.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And I'd even say that things like taking some time to game, or having a few extra beers, if
Yeah.
done in a controlled and balanced way, can serve a purpose in and of itself to kind of pump the brakes a little bit on being
Yeah.
too over the top. Jocko Willink, for example, the guy posts a picture of his watch every morning at 4:30 when he's getting up to pump iron and doing insane stuff. And every now and again, I'll see a post that he puts out of, utterly destroyed this thing, and it would be like a picture of a donut with like this huge chunk taken out of it. And it's got like icing drizzle all over it, and so taking that time to be good to yourself as well, I think, is also really important. So
Yeah, it's a matter of broad trajectory as opposed to specific
yeah.
analysis of every single thing, I suppose. But I mean, like I said, in general, if you have behaviors that you can't explain, yeah, evaluate those. They should be in pursuit of something important.
Yeah, no, that's a really good bit of advice. Do you? And I know kind of what my answer would be, and that's I'm just a bad interviewer. Just don't mind that. But do you feel that people's principles change over time, and if so, how? What's maybe the most appropriate way for that to happen?
They certainly do. I mean, I would say that mine have, but I wouldn't say change necessarily in my case. I would say sharpen, become
Okay.
keener, become more conscious of.
Hmm.
Uh, I actually, well, maybe I want to think about how I say that. I'm not sure that my principles have changed that much. I think my ability to consider them and apply them to any given situation has improved.
Okay.
Because when I used to, sometimes you look at a problem in the past and you think, well, I would have answered it this way because I thought that that was the so-called good guy way to answer it. But I now see, even though that's the feel-good answer or the knee-jerk answer, it is contrary to more fundamental truths that are important, not just in my opinion, but important as a matter of the fundamental way that the world works. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
Yeah. No, that makes
I
sense.
feel like I'm kind of talking too broadly here, but um, can you change your most fundamental values? Yes. But I think that what's going on for people who change their minds is more of a recognition of those fundamental values than a change of what those values are. I think those values are
Yeah.
actually more grounded in natural reality than they are just in our subjective opinions. So I don't think
Hmm.
that they actually change that much as they exist. Because when I talk about first principles and sort of fundamental laws of the world, they're not just there because we invented them in our minds.
Right. They're
They're there because
intrinsic.
they're a product of the natural world, right? They're inherent. So it's kind of our ability to understand and recognize and apply those as opposed to the values or the principles themselves actually changing.
Okay. So I think really when you're talking about intrinsic values, principles, things like that, a lot of times people's experiences will ideally shape them and if they're looking at it reality, objectively, to sharpen their goal, to sharpen their focus on really what's best for them. And I think a lot of times that can look like a shift in principles, a shift in that value, but really it is kind of just a refocusing, a repurposing, and kind of another venue of attacking who you can be and how you can be a little bit better of you. So
Yeah.
and so
Yeah, I totally agree. Once I got those aspects of my life more in focus and thought about what it is that I'm doing with my life, what purpose I'm pursuing, the responsibilities and the obstacles and the challenges to navigate greatly increased, but so too did my satisfaction with my life. I don't wake
yeah.
up anymore kind of wondering, well, what the hell am I doing? Like, I don't know. I mean, like, well, I don't know why. There were times in my life where, like, Xbox goals were like
Yep.
maybe my daily priority. I'm not saying that to take a shot at Xbox. Again, I still enjoy it, but you just wonder, like, what's consuming most of your time? What's consuming
Hmm.
most of the resources that you have to contribute to a particular goal? You want to get those in order. Once
And
you do, you'll be challenged, but you'll feel better.
yes, I know far too many people where that Xbox achievement or that next thing in that game takes that top slot before even some really basic things in life. And
Oh yeah, I
it's
remember when back in my Xbox, I'm still in my Xbox playing days, I guess, but it's just a lot less common than it used to be. But I remember when I was playing a lot more than I should, frequently on Call of Duty, I would hear what I called the COD dad. You got like a crying child you can hear in the background while the
yep.
guys. Can I swear on your show? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, I don't give a fuck.
The dude's like talking shit, but you can hear his kid crying in the background that he's clearly, at least momentarily neglecting. You don't want to become that guy.
No, no. And of course, if you've earned that time and your kid is just going to cry all the time, that happens too. But
I suppose
boy,
I am keenly aware of that now.
I can't even imagine.
That well, kids, especially newborns, they just cry. They just cry, and you have to be comfortable with just letting them cry sometimes. That said, I probably wouldn't broadcast it over the internet in that way.
Yeah, true, true. Does it ever actually get comfortable? You say you got to get comfortable with that, but is that more of just you kind of hunker down and just kind of let it happen? Is there
Yeah,
ever a true comfort?
that might be a better way to describe it. I'm sure it's not just me. I'm sure it's something that is kind of biologically ingrained. But the
Sure.
sound of a newborn at 11 out of 10 volume,
Mm,
ooh, one of the roughest
mm,
sounds in the world, and it's designed to be that way, of course,
sure.
because it's supposed to get our attention. It's supposed to tell us, "Hey, something's wrong. I need you to take care of it." So that's why I say it's probably not just me. It's a biological thing. It's biology telling me this is the urgent matter that you got to take care of. But yeah, I, I I would rank 11 out of 10 newborn scream way
Mm,
above fingernails on chalkboard, way
mm.
above any of the annoying sounds that the world can produce. It is something else, man. But
Oof.
yeah, it's not. I guess I would say you never really, at least in my experience, you don't get comfortable with it, but you understand that not every single one is an emergency. It's not a 911 situation. It's just
Yeah.
okay. You got a little thing to deal with,
Oh
and that's about
man,
it.
I bet at first though it probably feels like each one is a 911. It's. I just have a
Yeah,
dog, so
I'm not. I, there are a lot of similarities. So they're not the same, obviously.
right.
But
Yeah.
when you have dependents, animal or newborn baby, there are a lot of similarities between them. But sorry, what was your question? I lost my train of thought.
That's okay. That's fine. Just about when they first start that crying, when's that first
Oh yeah.
one, and
Well, for me, yeah, like when you first hold your kid, they seem so fragile, and they
mm,
are. But you're so afraid of breaking them or hurting them, and in my case, I saw the nurses. I mean, they handle them like footballs at the hospital.
yeah, oh yeah,
High and tight, they carry them around, toss them around. The way the quickness and the efficiency with which they change diapers, you realize like, okay, they know what they're doing. They're doing this every day, and they're not breaking kids.
yeah.
So that fear of being a little too reckless with your handling goes away pretty quickly, and
Okay.
so too does the fear that a crying outburst is some kind of emergency, because it's
Mm,
almost always not.
yeah. I kick a lot of kids for a living. I teach martial arts, and so
Mm.
I not anyone that's going to start screaming or crying if I hit them, but still, there's that little bit of satisfaction from winding them up and then send them on home, and I might talk with the parents afterwards, but like you pay me money to kick your child. This is pretty great. This is a satisfactory arrangement that we have here. Boy,
I don't know much about that specifically, but I do know that, well, I just think that our parenting and our child raising philosophy needs a lot more toughness in it than
I agree. Yeah.
maybe I don't know. Obviously, I don't know what your upbringing was like, but we're probably the same generation, roughly similar age, I'm guessing, and
Yeah.
and the trophy participation trophy sort of
Yep.
everyone's special philosophy, not good. The most improvement I've ever had in my life was those humbling moments where you realize I'm not nearly as smart or as strong or as however capable as I thought I was.
Yeah.
Those moments are necessary. Not that everybody needs to have their face rubbed in the dirt and shamed and mocked and bullied, but just to get knocked down a peg or two in a healthy way, that has to be restored.
Oh yeah, I 100% agree. I actually had a big competition when I was pretty young. I did okay, and I had my medals, had my ribbons, and I was looking down, and one of the ribbons I got was a participation ribbon.
Yeah.
And I was probably I was 20, no, it was 2000. Holy crap! I was 10 years old, and I kept everything but that participation ribbon. I think I threw it away that same day, and everything else got a frame and put up on the wall, but not that one. Because that kind of actually made me feel worse in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
It just,
Well,
I don't know.
You want to truly earn your accomplishments, and when you don't succeed or you underachieve, you want that, I don't know if shame is the right word, but that realization that I'm talking about. I'm
Yeah.
not that good. I need to improve. You want that. And when you get an award for that, yeah, it's a weird feeling because it gives you the impression that was good enough, but it wasn't.
Right.
You need to work at it more.
Yeah, especially in the case of the competition, I trained for months and worked my butt off, and just to get one of those just for being there. I don't know. I think walking in the door was my participation trophy for me. But
Yeah, but it's kind of belittling too. It's like you mentioned
Oh,
you put
yeah.
a lot of work into it, and it still wasn't good enough. But you kind of know that even if you had showed up totally unprepared, you put all this work in, you get the same thing as if you had showed up totally unprepared, and that so-called
Yep.
award would have been given to you interchangeably, regardless of your effort. It's almost insulting to the effort that you did put in.
Yes, that is exactly how it felt. 10-year-old me knew it, and I just right in the trash.
Yeah, I've had similar experiences, and that informs a lot of my parenting philosophy. Obviously, I don't get to apply those now because I'm dealing with a 4-month-old, so it's, I can't. The broader kind of dad concepts are yet to be realized, but these are the
Right.
things I think about for the future years where these sorts of lessons are going to be necessary to teach.
Sure. Have you been honing in your dad jokes? Is that is that progress?
Those are that's kind of a pre-existing condition for me. So I don't feel like I need to. I talk about recognizing that you need improvement. I don't feel like I need improvement in that regard, though. I am a master.
Already at that top. Yeah.
In my own mind. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm sure your kids' eyes will be rolling here soon enough, and you'll just rehash
Can't
the
wait.
same ones. You'll have
Yeah.
to sharpen them up eventually, I'm sure.
Oh, that's that's one of my favorite. It doesn't come out in my channel. Maybe a little bit on the stream.
A little bit in the stream.
But I love running jokes into the ground. Like once they're dead and the horse has been fully beaten, they're almost funnier.
Yeah.
Just absolutely make them as stale as you possibly can. That's part of the comedy.
I think that's the essence of a good dad joke.
Yeah.
So especially with this pandemic and how it's been handled, and everybody's been put through the ringer in their own right, and we're starting to see how everybody really deals with something that's difficult. There are a lot of big, broad questions that could be asked there, but that's probably the hardest one. what has been your favorite kind of meme or kind of funny moment to come out of this general time zone? I was going to say year, but I don't know. They've all been pretty tasty.
The funniest thing about all of this?
What would be your
man.
favorite meme from all this?
I mean, are you talking broad concept? Or are you talking like specific event?
Oh man, see that's what makes it so tough. Let's pick meme. What's your favorite? What's your favorite meme out of all this?
It's really hard for me to think of something that specific out of such a broad, out of such a wide net cast. But speaking seriously, there's very little about the last 2 years that's actually funny to me, except for in a total clown pill way, like laughing at the world burn kind of way, which I fully have the ability to do, and I understand that there's some value to fiddling as the Titanic sinks. But
Sure.
I don't find those things funny in a ha-ha way, I suppose, to borrow the phrase.
Yeah.
You might make like those momentary jokes, but it is the concepts and the values and the principles that are at stake over the last 2 years are not just jokes in passing. They're not even meme worthy to me. These are fundamental concepts of truth, morality, and just the broad ideas around which our society is built. I know I'm kind of punting the question, but it's really not that funny to me. Like it's actually gravely concerning, and that's why I'm so passionate about these things, or as passionate as I am, because we're not watching a literal fire, but we're kind of watching a slow burning metaphorical one, and it's taking out everything that is the foundation of our society.
It's a coal fire at the base of what we're standing on, essentially.
Yeah. So I don't know. I can throw the question back at you. Is there a particular meme moment that got you? Maybe it'll jog my memory a little bit.
Oh man, there's so many to choose from, but honestly, any of the Joe Biden ones have been fantastic. A few of the Trump ones are pretty good, but
you just mean his like dementia moments, or what specifically?
True and Not a Shabbat pressure was pretty good.
Oh yeah.
That was a pretty solid one. Just things to bring brevity to such a serious situation.
I suppose I could take the easy answer and appreciate Let's Go Brandon too. I mentioned that
Sure.
I love things that are driven into the ground, and it is at this point. You're not going to really laugh about like a Let's Go Brandon meme at this point.
Right.
But the moment that it was, like the moment that it represented, where you have an obvious display of hatred for this president, the most popularly elected president of all time.
Of course.
Yeah, a NASCAR race is not going to be his most popular venue. It's biased to begin with.
Sure.
But you have a loud, clear public outcry. Fuck this guy. And then you have what is either total media incompetence or intentional covering for him. Oh, listen to that crowd. They love you. Let's go, Brandon. Right. Listen to them. Just what it represented. Like, it was such a stupid, seemingly silly moment.
Yeah.
But the broader realities that it represents in a brief 5-second clip, actually pretty telling, pretty amazing moment.
Oh yeah, it was revealing to just show that gap between what they say and what's actually happening. And to your point, the fact that this thing has been dragged out of the house and beaten to death, and then revived and beaten to death again, you got people on like mainstream news saying like, let's go Brandon. You got that clip that you play often enough where it's
I've got like just 5 or 6 or 7 of them. Yeah, I just can't stop.
It just makes it that much better.
And the other piece of it, it's undead. It's a zombie meme at this point. But part of the reason it won't go away, part of it is guys like me and maybe you, we love beating it into the ground. But the other part is they can't let it die. Anytime they hear a sniff of it, it has to become a quasi-terrorist attack or like a death threat or something like that. And it's just like, you guys know part of the reason it's funny is because of your insane overreaction to it. If you just shrugged and didn't care, guess what? Neither would any of us.
And that's what makes it one of the perfect trolls. And just the fact that he said that on live TV. I agree. Let's go, Brandon. I
forgot about that one.
A million ways to handle that so much better, and I would have gained a little more respect for him if he had handled it just a little bit better. What a fumble that was. What a
He said
perfect
it, and then
fumble.
they never addressed it again. I don't think. Right? They
No,
just
I don't think they did.
They never responded. They never cleaned it up, and they just. That's what was weird is that like Jen Psaki previously had denied, and other White House officials had denied knowledge of this.
Right.
But then Joe Biden comes out and says, "Yes, I agree. Let's go." So maybe he. I don't know. What's your interpretation of that? Do you think he genuinely had no idea
man.
what the guy was talking about? Do you think that he was trying to troll himself and sort of tongue-in-cheek reply to the meme, or what? To me, I just think he had no idea what it was. I think he's mentally absent. Maybe I'm not giving him enough credit.
That's a tough one to answer. My honest belief is he's probably I think he's aware of it. I think he's aware of it enough, and I think he was trying to take the angle of let's just laugh about it to try and kind of normalize it and then let it die down, kind of laugh at his own joke a little bit. I think that was probably the angle he was going for. It was not the right play at that moment. Because I agree. Like watching him and listening to him speak, it's totally believable. He had just no clue what it meant. He is just not aware that this was a thing. But I think in that moment he was probably just trying to laugh with the guy to keep kind of the moment in check. Not the right move.
Probably.
But,
well, very little of his moves have been the right moves. So
especially going up.
At least, yeah.
Those damn stairs, man. So,
but that was such a perfect metaphor too. Yeah, that's a good one for reference. Falling up the stairs is a perfect metaphor for his presidency.
Oh man,
just absolutely falling on your face and somehow still ascending.
Yeah,
that is exactly what happened.
Yeah, you're right. That actually does kind of perfectly capture a lot of what's been happening with him. But it's moments like that, because we are in such a dire situation, and not really because of the virus, but our reaction to it. And it's not localized to the U.S.'s reaction. In fact, other places have been, frankly, just so much worse. Australia, New Zealand, Austria, and Germany, things like that. But it's. I think it's important to be able to kind of pluck little moments like that and just have a good chuckle every now and again, especially in moments, and these are really rare, where the laughter and the joke kind of crosses that line where it goes and both sides are able to kind of take a step back and laugh at it. We've been seeing so few of those now, but
those, just any sort of cultural commonplace like that is so uncommon now.
Yes.
It's so rare, and it's one thing we talk about all the time too. I am a big believer of, if you don't like a particular institution, you are not only welcome, you should be encouraged to go and build something better yourself. I think that's a good philosophy of life. All the time you spend screaming at somebody else to make something the way that you want it to, or the way that you want it to be, it'd probably be better spent if you took the initiative yourself and built it according to your wants and desires yourself.
Yeah.
So, I'm very sympathetic to the idea that, well, maybe we just tell all the big tech people and all the other institutions that have been compromised, tell them all to screw off and we go build our own better things. And maybe we can. But the other side of it is, how much ground are we going to continue to surrender? Sports is another example. I love watching football, and I still do, but I just feel kind of icky every time I do when I'm bombarded with like racial propaganda every time I see it, or some other social justice nonsense. And I it's like, could you build an NFL of old that was strictly about football? Yeah, and it'd be awesome. I hope we can do that. But on the other side, every time these people invade a space and ruin it, are we just going to retreat?
I agree.
Reinvent the wheel every single time, because you'll actually never, if you're rebuilding wheels for the wagon every single day, you probably never invent the car. Or you never invent the next thing because you're too busy rebuilding stuff that we had yesterday.
Yeah.
And that's not a way to live either.
And it really just does kind of sow a lot more division. And so you have something like Getter or Parler, where, I joined Getter actually a while ago. And it's fine. I like it. But really the thing that aggravates me the most is it's all politics. And the only political side I've really even seen on there is the right. I'm not seeing anything else. And I'll post like a stupid picture. I rarely post anything seriously. And gets no traction. I mean, I'm also tiny, but at the same time, if you post something furious about the left on Parler or Getter, boom, it's going to blow up. And so we're seeing less of that interaction, and it just kind of separates us.
Well, yeah, and it's as mad as I am at Twitter leadership and as wrong as I think they are, what's the reason I can't quit Twitter? It's because that's where the best fights happen.
Yep.
And to your point, not just where I can watch blue checks of all sides trying to dunk on each other and it's hilarious, but it's also the place where I go if I want, for example, sports news, or I want video game news, or I want to know what else is happening besides the political fights that I enjoy. And that's not a shot at the people running these alternative platforms. They're putting in the effort and trying to build things that I think are worthwhile, and good for them for doing it. It's just a bummer, and it's a recognition of the reality that you're talking about. When you build this many partitioned silos where if you're in this box, you go here, if you're in that box, you go there, and we're never to interact, that is the natural result. And it's boring. Even if everybody on Parler or Getter is right, it's boring. It's not as fun. I agree. Yeah. It sucks. It's not the fault of those platforms, but that's why I always get pissed on Twitter when someone gets banned, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, for example, and you look at the replies, and half the people will saying, "Oh, you go get on that echo chamber over on Parler or Gab." Well, why are they echo chambers? It's exactly because you're booting people like this away from your out of your site. You're building the echo chamber while decrying the echo chamber. Yeah, but they never seem to recognize that.
And oftentimes people forget that to go to these other platforms, they don't have to talk politics. A lot of people I know, they don't want to go there because it's like a right-wing echo chamber, and they're not totally wrong, but you don't have to be afraid to go there to be taken down politically. If you just post pictures of your dog, post stupid cat memes, and you'll actually enjoy it.
The correct answer for Twitter and everyone else is just to allow the user as much filtration and control as they want. People who annoy me, and maybe I don't want to give them the satisfaction of a block, the mute function is wonderful.
Oh, yeah.
They mute entire topics you don't want to hear about.
True.
And just when the user is in control of filtering his own experience, that's great. He gets what he wants without imposing his will on the rest of everybody else and controlling what they're able to see and enjoy.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. That the only thing I disagree with is I kind of love it when people just come at me for the smallest things. I don't know, maybe if I actually had like more followers, I would find it really annoying and start blocking, muting people. But I once pointed out that wearing a certain hairstyle in Animal Crossing was not racist because the player was white.
Yeah.
I thought that was a pretty easy take to have, and boy, what followed was about 2 weeks of people trying to get me to admit to being racist, and they're calling me a Nazi, and they're posting snapshots from me on my channel where I don't put that kind of effort in, so they're trying to embarrass me with something I had out there publicly, and I was like, hey, thanks for the shout out, this is great.
But that's the thing. It's like it's not that I don't have the skin thick enough for that sort of thing, and I'm sure you probably do too. It's not that it bothers me if someone says something mean about me on the internet. It's a recognition. When I talk about like blocking or muting, it's really just understanding. We've talked about purpose and using your time wisely to start. It's just an understanding, especially now that I'm in the parenthood stage of my life, or even before when I'm just on the like trying to stay on the straight and narrow work-wise. It's an understanding that getting lost in a half-day's Twitter fight, even just to like talk shit and dunk on people for fun, is not an effective use of time.
That's true.
And I'm totally the sort of person where once I'm in the fight, it's very hard to just stop and look away, whether it's like a salty email or whether it's an angry Twitter reply. That it's just once the thread begins, very hard to put it to bed. So my philosophy is just don't start those unless they're really fights worth having. Yeah. And most of them aren't. That's fair. That's why I try to walk away from them as much as possible. It's not like I'm muting everybody who says something critical about me. It's the sort of what I'm talking about is like the belligerent person who's like a genuine obstruction, someone who
Yeah.
is just absolutely coming at you habitually.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's fair. I get DMs all the time. I hope this is a bot account and things like that. And
Yeah.
I'm not even going to reply. I'm just going to let you craze up my DM box for a little while.
I need to master that art. I've gotten a lot better over the years. That was my New Year's resolution a couple years ago. Fewer Twitter fights, fewer internet fights in general, and I've stuck true to that mostly.
It's not a
But
bad
and I kind of have to
resolution
do
to have.
that. Well, it's just as a philosophy in terms of making what I make, I don't like to be guided. I don't want to, put my finger in the wind and try to
Hmm.
figure out what it is that people want me to say or what I'm supposed to say or how mad is someone going to be if I don't do this or say it that way or
Right.
whatever. So just shielding myself from kind of the onslaught of comments and criticism, however valid they may be. I'm not saying that to dismiss any of the points that people want to
Right. Right.
discuss. It's just that I don't want to be guided by that. I don't want to be like
Yeah.
a puppet of the mob who is simply doing what the hecklers want me to do.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And sometimes that'll happen even kind of subconsciously. If you get a lot of
Yeah.
criticism for a certain way, you might inadvertently find yourself changing what you do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I want everything I make to be as like as authentic a representation of what exists in my mind organically, as opposed to just like, well, so and so
Yeah.
expects that I do this and say this.
Do you see truth as a main principle to have? And
Yeah,
so,
I think it's
go ahead.
probably
Go
the
ahead.
highest pursuit, the highest value.
So then, looking at it, because people will say like my personal truth and
Yeah.
things like that. But when you look at truth as a principle, are you looking at it as objectively finding out what is true, or the more personal, just trying to adapt yourself to what's true out there? I guess more of the introspective, being true to yourself more so. Which
I
perspective
guess
do you take on that?
I'm not entirely clear on the distinction that you're making there, to be honest.
Okay.
But I don't know if you want to explain it a little bit more, or I can explain my thoughts on what it means to pursue the truth, I suppose. But
Hmm.
what's can you explain that distinction a little bit
Sure,
more? I'm
sure.
not clear on the either or.
Well, I don't really necessarily think they're totally separate, and that's kind of
Okay.
why I want your look on it a little bit, is because you can, how do I say it? Some people are really rigid in, all right, the truth. We have to find out what's true of the matter and find out what is the objective truth of this thing that happened, or your interaction with other people. And sometimes it kind of takes, I feel like it takes the self out of it, and it gets a little harsh, to where people kind of, they get an edge to them and they get kind of angry. But then there's also the look at it as truth as a principle, being as true to yourself as you can, and so being open and honest with yourself. For example, looking at, why do I do the things I do on a day-to-day basis, and not muddying the waters at all to let yourself get away with certain things, but being
Yeah.
open and honest about what you're doing, and then pushing forward and still observing out there what is true, so you can be as honest to yourself. I guess just kind of a
Well,
different look at it.
in either scenario, I would say that fundamentally the truth is something that exists objectively outside of each and every one of us.
Mhm.
And it's not something that you or I just get to define in our heads, that this is true because I say it's true, or this is true because the experts say it's true, or the
Right.
intellectual authority says it's true. There's something called the truth that is out there in every context, and it's defined by the natural order of the world and the reality that exists objectively. It's not defined by our perception of it. It's not defined by our definition of it. It exists. And I think fundamentally what we're trying to do is assess, acquire, understand that truth. The honest among us doing that as objectively as possible, putting aside your subjective biases and your own preferences for what the truth might be, and assessing it honestly. But I don't know if that answers your question. I mean, just fundamentally, the truth exists out there not necessarily in here being your mind.
Right.
The truth is something that exists in the world, and it's our job to acquire it, understand it, and sort of import it into our minds. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. It's it's always a tricky one to kind of navigate, and I've gone from listening to, say, like people like Sam Harris talk about mindfulness and meditation and all these different things. Of course, he's kind of gone off the rails as of late, which is unfortunate. To people like Jordan Peterson and other people like that, and talk about truth and go back and forth for many, many hours on what that might mean.
Did you listen to their original episode about truth?
Oh my goodness!
A couple of years ago.
That wasn't it like they were debating about God, but they got lost in just arguing what truth meant.
Yes.
For like 3 hours.
I remember listening in the car and like almost pounding on my dashboard. What in God's name is this? It was just it was two guys talking past each other, trying to out fart sniff the other.
That's what it felt like. That was not either of their greatest moments there.
No, and they did go back and they talked about it more. So I have and I have respect for both guys. Sam on politics has really become a tough listen for me, and to be honest, I just don't anymore. Mm-hmm. But in terms of my prior worldview on religion, he was an influential thinker on me. I'm not sure that he is anymore because some of my perspectives have changed on that.
Sure,
but I respect the guy as a thinker, and I respect the guy as mostly a decent guy who's not trying to interfere. He's not the kind of guy, at least that I've seen, he's not going to come after you trying to censor you, generally speaking. As much as I may disagree with some of his takes, I don't recall, and I'm open to being corrected if I can't remember something. I just don't recall him trying to quote-unquote cancel anybody. And even though that's sort of a baseline expectation,
right? Yeah.
In a sane society, that's like baseline normal behavior. In today's society, that's something I actually have to credit.
Sure.
But even though I don't agree with all the things he's saying, he's a guy that I could still share a country with. That's kind of how I evaluate it now. Can I share a country with you? Yes, is the answer for him. So that's comparatively good. And Jordan Peterson, of course, Jordan Peterson's been influential on a lot of my thought too, in the ways that we were talking about at the start, and just the proper how to properly organize your life, how to properly prioritize where you should put your energies, all of those things. So I don't bring that up to dunk on either of those guys.
No.
It's a really rough listen.
It's I haven't given it a full listen yet, so I can't speak too critically on this, but Sam Harris just recently put out another episode of his podcast where it was just him talking to his audience and kind of where he sits in a lot of different kind of pathways. And one of those was politically, and he was, from what I've heard, I haven't gotten to this part myself just yet, but he was calling for cancellation of a lot lot of people. And saying
so
that
maybe I'm wrong. Maybe
he's changed a little bit more apparently.
Yeah. So I mean, I speak as someone who was listening to Sam 3 years ago,
right?
4 years,
and that's kind of where I was too until this.
Maybe I'm way off base, and Sam has joined the mob. I don't know. When you say talking to his audience, was he doing it interactively or just like a monologue to them?
Like a monologue. Yeah.
Oh.
Because his audience has been kind of pissed off at him for a lot of different perspectives that he's shared and a lot of different things that he said, and kind of understandably, but you don't want to let that control your direction, of course. But he came out, and the breakdown I saw on 4chan was basically freedom of speech is great, except for these people.
No. No,
it's
he said that.
Well, he in a roundabout way, kind of, yeah. I know it's frustrating.
That's when everything is fundamental value, but
but
it's just like, God, dude. Well, then it's not really a fundamental value, is it? What you're saying is there's something that's more important than that value that actually constrains it. It's not actually the highest priority in the case of free speech or whatever other value you're compromising.
And it's kind of taken the perspective that we're given these rights, we're given these values from something else that can just take it away as a punishment. And
well, I think the rules of the world, the sort of natural law that we started on, I think that is the establishment of, or the creation of, something higher than us. I don't know
Hmm.
I don't know what that is. That's kind of the quest that I'm on. So I
Sure,
do
sure.
think that they're given or established, but they're not given or established by people.
Right.
And
That's a good distinction to have.
that's really where we're getting into trouble, is the idea that our rights are given to us by the experts or the intellectual elite or some
Yeah.
person who is supposedly bigger, better, stronger, smarter, whatever than us, and not by the natural order of the world, God, the creator, however you conceptualize that. Whatever it
Right.
is that gave order to the world is what gave you those rights as they naturally exist, and we've really lost sight of that.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. It's it's been really hard to watch a lot of these people that would talk shit on celebrities being so popular amongst the younger crowd. You know, they like MTV generation idolizing people that are on, you know, Real Talk and things like that. And then they immediately turn around and then fall into that same trap themselves with talking heads on CNN and even Fox News. Like, you get Dr. Fauci out and everybody just locks step right in line. And it's been very
I can't
discouraging.
understand or don't understand the, not just the respect for him, but the uncritical obedience to that man. It's just
You don't
bizarre. He
have
is just
you don't have
he's a
a
weird little
Fauci
elf guy
figurine?
who's been I know. He's just an elf man who's been a bureaucrat in government for decades.
Yeah.
And okay, I mean, he's deserving of the same, I suppose, respect um, as any human would be, but he's not a god. He's not like this weird idol
Yeah.
that he probably does. In fact, I know he does. He knows more about the specific scientific concepts of virology than I do. Now, whether he's actually applying them honestly and whether he's being an evil overlord about it, that's up for interpretation. But the question is, just because he has a set of specific knowledge that I may not have, and by the way, I'm sure I have a set of specific knowledge in another area that Dr. Fauci does not have.
Sure.
But that does not entitle me to control of his life any more than his knowledge of this specific area entitles him to control of mine. And it's bizarre to see people surrender that concept.
Yeah.
We talk about how all of this is so disheartening and kind of not funny earlier. The biggest black pill for me, the biggest piece of discouragement, is not just that people are willing to surrender control of their own lives and their fundamental rights, but that they're eager to do it and that they'll shame others for not doing it. You
Yeah.
think that we hold these things dear and that liberty or death means something as a culture. It really doesn't. It's expert advice or death. But in fact, you get both. You get expert advice and death when you live according to that philosophy. So it's not a good one to take. And that's, it, I don't know. It's just people think that that death is like strictly preventable. That death can be
Right.
cheated. That we can avoid. We're all going to die. And yeah, we should probably try to avoid dying in a crazy car crash tomorrow if we can help it. But when you sacrifice everything about today in pursuit of avoiding death tomorrow, you sort of defeat the purpose of living. You've
Hmm.
sacrificed. It's one thing to sacrifice 14 days in order to live a longer life. 14
Sure.
days is now 2 years, and a lot of our fundamental and normal aspects of our culture are totally upside down now.
Yeah.
Will
And
we ever go back to the normal that existed before? Have we
I don't
sacrificed
think so.
large qualities of our life in pursuit of avoiding death?
Yeah, you can't nerf the world. And
Yeah, to use the video game terminology, yeah, the world is OP. You're right.
yeah. Yeah,
It's a rough place.
we're all fucked in the end. I mean, really.
Yeah.
It's how much control do you want over that? And how much control should you have over that, and how little control you should have over other people's choices of that as well.
Yeah.
It's a hard thing for people to get over.
Well, and it's just because I value my own direction and control of my own life, I value that for other people too. And I
Yeah.
think when you don't, that's part of the vicious cycle here. When you don't actually value control of your own life, you're willing to compromise others' control of their lives too.
Yeah.
Because that sort of reflection or that application of your own values in the protection of other people kind of falls apart. And I don't know. Well, I guess I kind of do know how it got to. I think all of it originates with the breakdown of the family and a lot of these insecurities that we have that would properly be. Um, I can't fault anybody for having insecurities and uncertainties and even being a little bit childish with their fears sometimes. We all have those. We're all afraid of spiders or afraid of snakes or afraid of viruses or whatever.
Yeah.
Question is, who's responsible for helping you through that and quelling those fears and making you feel comfortable? Is it society at large, Big Daddy government? Are they supposed to come and kill the spider in your house, or is it your dad? Is it your mom? Is it your brother, your sister, your wife, your husband? The people closest to you who are most responsible for seeing to your day-to-day welfare. Are they the ones who are actually responsible for this? And once we've abdicated that, once we've destroyed that relationship, all of a sudden everybody looks to the big amorphous government god to solve every single problem in the world, including the spider in your bathroom. And they can't do that.
Yeah.
It's too big of a problem for them to solve. Even if they were benevolent enough to try, which they aren't. They're actually evil bastards. So they're not only are they not going to kill the spider in your bathroom, they're going to release spiders into your house and then tell you they're not there. That's what's going to happen.
Essentially, I see kind of the overreach of government as being run by the cast, or at least the characters of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. You have a spider in your
I don't
bathroom.
know the show really well.
Oh, it's fantastic. Fantastic. Yeah, you would have a spider in your bathroom, and they would send in a SWAT team to take care of the spider and inadvertently destroy the rest of the house and release more spiders and a couple monkeys in there just for good measure.
And then they would have a press conference and brag about how effectively they did it.
Yeah,
And
obviously.
that's if they ever show up. Like ironically, the best answer would be they promise to kill the spider, but they don't actually ever show up.
Takes a couple
That
of
would be
years,
best case
a few $1
scenario.
million in spending. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, that would be just fantastic. Everybody needs that to happen. So, kind of a clown pill question for you, because the actual event of what's happening and seeing people and society kind of break down and more things just kind of twist and turn it's really hard to find comedy in that. It's really hard to find anything funny in this, and that's why I think those moments of little memes that went just a little too far, things like that are really, really important. But how do you feel comedy can be used as a tool in moments like this? We got people like Dave Chappelle, Joe Rogan doing fantastic things with this.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that comedy is a natural outgrowth of any taboo truth. That's just kind of what happens, is where there are truths about the world that we're not supposed to discuss or that are treated as forbidden for some reason. They naturally end up in the world of the joke, as they should. And I suppose, even though like I said, I don't want to laugh too much about the downfall of our
Of course, you're laughing, yeah.
Because it's but that's the thing, is when things are so, it's sort of like laughing at a funeral. You laugh because you have to.
Yeah.
But the optimistic thing that I can say is, outside of the gun, the literal gun, the greatest weapon in the fight against tyranny and authoritarianism is outright mockery. In fact, it's the first weapon deployed, and it might be the weapon that the tyrants fear more than the gun itself. The truth wrapped in a good joke is irresistible. That's the saying, right? It's the power of a piece of truth that makes you smile. I don't know that there's anything that is more influential on a human being than that. So, even though I'm more pessimistic about the prospect for the future than I probably ever have been in my entire life right about now, the hope that the funny people are mostly on the side of truth, reason, anti-tyranny, anti-authoritarianism right now. And I think they are generally. The funniest people tend to question power structures. They're not usually making jokes on behalf of the established power.
Yeah.
But that's sort of an ultimate weapon that is always wielded by those who are being encroached upon. So that's a piece of optimism for the comedy stuff. I don't want to get too comfortable with the state of the world and laugh it away, because it is in fact dire. But I would recognize that's among the greatest weapons available in the fight against this sort of creeping tyranny.
Yeah. No, I I really agree with that. And I find comedy in some of the darkest moments can not just shed light to truth, but to just to gain a better perspective on a lot of things. You mentioned,
Yeah.
laughing at a funeral, and I, boy, even just thinking back to it, I kind of laugh a little bit because it was extremely inappropriate, but it worked. It worked so well. A friend of mine, his father had passed when we were in like high school, and he was having probably the roughest go of anybody there. And just outside of the service, like he stepped out a little early, and his group of friends kind of followed with to comfort him. And we're out there, and nothing anyone was saying was keeping him from just sobbing. And it was so hard to watch. And I don't know why I decided to try for it, but I just kind of made a joke, and it was probably the least appropriate joke I could have made at that time. And he started laughing his ass off, and his tears went from tears of desperation and just sorrow to kind of almost happy tears. They were kind of bittersweet, and he took a different perspective on a lot of things that happened, and it kind of lightened it up a little bit for him, and so we just kind of kept him laughing, and I think it really did help. And so I also see it in times like that.
It's kind of an important point you're making. Laughter did not inherently trivialize the sincerity of the situation. That's
Right.
kind of what I'm worried about is does all the jokey clown pilly stuff sort of trivialize the seriousness of the problems that we face? But as you've explained there quite well, I think it doesn't have to.
Exactly.
It's a source of comfort. It's a source of alleviation. But it's not something that erased the reality of the loss of his father in that case. It's something
Right.
that made it a little bit more manageable. And yeah, I think that's a good concept that you explained there.
It's kind of a tough one for a lot of people to grasp, because a lot of times, and if it doesn't land well, it's taken as belittling what just happened,
Yeah.
and that's always the hard time with a good joke. But if you can nail that landing, that delivery, and you choose that timing perfectly, I think a lot of times people will see that you are in fact still respecting what just happened, especially if it's something very dark, and yet
Well, even if you don't, sometimes
That's fair.
people who go for it, even when it's like, ooh, even when it's a little kind of cringe, sometimes that's funny itself.
I actually had a really, oh my gosh, when Kobe Bryant's helicopter went down, we were gathered around. I think it was around Thanksgiving or something, and friends and family were all gathering in. They threw on the TV to watch, I think, like football or some other sport thing, and you see the captured footage of the helicopter's last moments, and it was the first time seeing it moments after it happened, and I was that guy to just go, Kobe, and
Wow.
and it's one of those times where you gotta hope that lands well, and everybody just started laughing. Some of the people, they were embarrassed that they were laughing, so they're kind of like ducking down a little bit, but I took it, and I'm glad I did. It was just one of those. A lot of respect for the guy. I'm actually not really a basketball fan, but I hope that when I go, I hope it's in a blaze of glory, and I hope that when I do, somebody is that guy for me. That's my main hope.
Yeah, that's the thing. If I died later today, or I died tomorrow, sure, I would hope that people had and have respect for me and stuff. But I don't want anybody to waste hours of their life in misery on account of me. It's nice to be recognized. It's nice to be respected, but I don't want to be any kind of ball and chain on someone's life experience. So you have to remember, people you lose, they don't want that for you.
No.
Memory, you hold your memory dear, but you don't waste prolonged periods of your life in agony. Nobody would want that, and nobody should want that.
Yeah, and
so the jokes help with that too.
And it's also kind of another way of kind of not immortalizing, but giving more weight to their memory. Because the Kobe meme, that's been around for I don't know how many decades, but always in like middle school, somebody takes a shot for the garbage can with a piece of paper, and you'd always yell Kobe, miss, and try it again. And so it was it was almost in my perspective of it, it was kind of a way of giving more weight to that person's memory, and a kind of an odd way, kind of respecting it. Much in the same way that people are, trash talking Bob Saget, which, wow, that came out of nowhere. I can't believe he's gone, but one of the dirtiest comedians out there. And so he dies, and all the comedians come out to roast him, and it's fantastic. It's their flaming arrow to his Viking ship, is kind of the way I see it. So,
well, and maybe we'll have to do that for an entire country sooner rather than later. We'll see. But that's probably a good concept to end on. I do have to get going.
Oh, geez, yeah, we went a little bit longer than I thought there. Sorry about that.
Sorry.
Oh, I appreciate it all the time. But
Sure.
one quick closer question. I don't know if you've gotten any news on this or not, but has R2 Dindu ever recovered from that sick burn?
What's the sick burn?
Oh,
Which
man.
one?
I think it was during one of your Evergreen videos, Limp Bizkit days, I think.
Oh, yeah. There was a whole Limp Bizkit component of that story.
Fred Durst lyrics everywhere, and is that
Can't
the
remember
R2
exactly
Dindu?
what it was.
Oh, that stuck so well.
It's examples of jokes that you almost hesitate on. You're a little worried to make. But man, and I to be clear, I am not in any way taking credit for the moniker R2 Dindu. That was from
that wasn't from you?
No. And even
wow.
if you watch the video, I credited the commenter because that's such a legendary. Now, what I did was, at the time, I remember the clip of her, I edited in the R2-D2 sounds as she was wheeling around, which was really funny, and I felt bad about it. But sometimes you make those jokes that you feel bad about. So yeah, I just want to whoever that commenter is out there, it's in the video. That person is findable somewhere. But as far as like what happened to R2 Dindu, I do know. In the maybe a couple years after that, I made a video about this too. There was a whole bunch of trans people who went to a city council meeting in Olympia. Olympia is the city where Evergreen is, and they were talking about how they're constantly at risk of death in Olympia. And R2 Dindu lectured the city council members about how they have no respect for, I guess, him. I think R2 Dindu is a female to male transgender person. But it was this
there are layers here.
I hope that when you sleep at night, you think of me, and you suffer, and you cry. It was something like that.
Oh, wow.
That was the last I heard from R2 Dindu.
Well, there's more to the story than I ever thought. That's fantastic.
Man, what a saga.
Yeah.
And, that's led to... It's nice to see that Brett Weinstein and his wife have been able to build something on their own outside of that. I've been happy to see that. But man, what you talk about microcosms for what's gone wrong in this country. That's another great one.
It was a bit of a precursor, but
yeah.
Anyway, just for, like I said, a lot of people that watch anything I do, it's a kind of a different, totally separate sphere of things. I'm sure they're not quite aware of what you do. So go ahead and give it a shout out for your channel streams. Yeah,
it's the name's Matt Christiansen. The website is mattchristiansenmedia.com. Christiansen is a long last name. It's Christian like the religion, S-E-N.
That's a good way to remember
Christian, S-E-N, mattchristiansenmedia.com. All the stuff I make is up on the website.
All right, fantastic. And I will hopefully one day forgive you for that Tremors review. I don't know. That's
we don't have time to talk about that.
That's a rough one. But I appreciate your time, man.
Well, thanks for hosting, man. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Take care.